Wibta if I stopped supporting my disabled father over his preferential treatment toward my sisters. All right, Reddit, I need some outside perspective because I'm at my breaking point and I don't know if I'm being unreasonable or if I'm justified in feeling this way. I, 26M, have been taking care of my disabled dad, mid-50s, for a decade now, and I'm starting to feel like I'm being taken for granted while he bends over backwards to help my sisters, 23F and 18F, who do literally nothing for him. My wife and I are considering pulling all our support, financial, physical, emotional, the works, and letting my sisters deal with him since they're the ones benefiting from his care. I know that sounds harsh, so let me back up and explain the whole mess. For context, my parents had a super messy divorce when I was 16. It was one of those situations where everyone was screaming at everyone else. And by the end of it, my sisters ended up living with my mom, and I stayed with my dad. I don't want to air all the dirty laundry, but let's just say my mom wasn't exactly the most stable person back then, and my dad needed help more than she did. He's been disabled since I was a kid, but things got worse around the time of the divorce. He has kidney failure, among a laundry list of other health issues, and he's been on dialysis for years while waiting for a transplant. He can't work, can barely get around some days, and needs a lot of help with day-to-day stuff, cooking, cleaning, getting to appointments, managing meds, you name it. So at 16, I stepped up. I didn't really think about it at the time. He was my dad, he needed me, and I just did what I had to do. Living with him wasn't easy. I was still in high school, trying to keep my grades up, working part-time at a grocery store to help with bills, and basically being his full-time caretaker. I'd cook his meals, mostly microwave stuff because I was a teenager and didn't know how to cook, drive him to dialysis when I got my license, and make sure he took his meds. Meanwhile, my sisters were with my mom, and their contact with dad was, let's call it minimal. They'd maybe call once a month, if that, and visit even less. I get it, they were younger. My youngest sister was only 10 when the divorce happened, but as they got older, that didn't change. They just didn't seem to care about him. I try not to resent them for it, but it was hard when I was the one doing all the heavy lifting. Fast forward a few years, and I'm in my early 20s, still living with dad, still taking care of him. I got a better job after high school, working in IT for a small company, and I was able to move us into a slightly better apartment. Around this time, I started dating my now wife, 27F, who's been an absolute saint through all of this. She saw how much I was juggling and started helping out with dad too, even before we got married. She'd come over to cook proper meals, help with laundry, or just sit with him so I could have a break. I don't know how I would have survived without her, honestly. Now, here's where things started to get messy. A couple of years ago, I found out that my older sister, the 23F one, was claiming benefits as a carer for dad. For those who don't know, in our country, you can get a small stipend if you're providing significant care for a disabled person. The thing is, she wasn't doing anything for him, like not even calling him regularly, let alone helping with his care. I only found out because I saw some paperwork at dad's place that had her name on it. When I confronted him, he admitted he'd signed off on it because she was struggling financially and he wanted to help her out. I was livid. Not only was this straight-up fraud, but it felt like a slap in the face to me. I'd been killing myself for years to take care of him, and here he was, enabling her to lie and get money for it. We had a huge fight. I'm talking yelling, slamming doors, the whole 9 yards. I told him it was unfair and that he was rewarding her for doing nothing while I got nothing but stress. He just kept saying, "She's my daughter. I have to help her." I eventually dropped it because I didn't want to stress him out too much, but it stung. Things calmed down for a while, but the resentment was always there in the back of my mind. My wife and I got married last year, and we moved into our own place about 20 minutes from Dad's. We still went over almost every day to check on him, bring groceries, or take him to appointments. It was exhausting, but we managed. Then, a few months ago, I got a call from his doctor that flipped everything upside down. They told me Dad was no longer on the kidney transplant list because his health had gotten so bad they weren't sure he'd survive the surgery. Apparently, his poor diet was a major factor. Too much sodium, processed junk, not enough fresh food, which was making all his other health issues worse. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I've been trying to get him to eat better for years, but he'd always brush me off or sneak junk food when I wasn't around. Hearing that it might have cost him his chance at a transplant, I was devastated. My wife and I talked it over, and we decided to move back in with Dad temporarily to try and get his health back on track. We figured if we could control his diet, maybe he could get strong enough to get back on the transplant list. It was a huge sacrifice. We just started settling into our new place, and moving back meant giving up a lot of our privacy and free time. But we did it because we love him and wanted to have a chance. So we packed up, moved in, and started cooking healthy meals, cutting out salt, getting him to drink more water, the whole deal. It's been exhausting, and Dad's not exactly cooperative. He grumbles about the food, sneaks snacks when he thinks we're not looking, and generally makes it harder than it needs to be. But we're trying. Then, last week, I found something that pushed me over the edge. I was going through Dad's mail to make sure his bills were paid, and I found a letter saying that my youngest sister, the 18F one, had applied for a Young Carers grant, claiming she was providing 16 hours a week of care for him. 16 hours. This is the same sister who maybe visits once a month for an hour, tops, and spend the whole time on her phone. She's never cooked him a meal, never helped with his meds, never done anything. I confronted Dad about it, and he gave me the same excuse as before. She's struggling. I just wanted to help her out. I lost it. I told him this was fraud, that it was unfair to me and my wife, and that we're the only ones actually taking care of him. He just got defensive and said I was overreacting, that he's just trying to be a good dad to all his kids. I stormed out and haven't talked to him since. Here's where I'm at now. I'm done. I feel so unappreciated and taken for granted. My wife and I are sacrificing everything. Our time, our money, our energy to keep him alive, and he's out here helping my sisters cheat their way to benefits they don't deserve. Neither of them has ever lifted a finger to help him. They're both adults now, and they still don't care. My older sister's out partying and posting on Instagram like she's living her best life, while my younger sister's starting college and apparently needs grant money for caring for Dad. Meanwhile, I'm the only one not getting any kind of benefit for his care, and I'm the one doing all the work. It's not even about the money. It's about the principle. Why does he keep rewarding them for doing nothing while I'm breaking my back? My wife's on the same page. She's furious, not just for me, but for herself too. She's put so much into helping Dad, and she feels like he doesn't even see it. We're seriously considering pulling all our support, like moving out, stopping the financial help, stopping the daily check-ins, everything. Let my sisters step up since they're the ones caring for him, right? But I know that's not realistic. They won't do it, and Dad will suffer. He can't take care of himself, and without us, he'd probably end up in a care facility or worse. That's what's holding me back. I love him, and I don't want him to die, but I can't keep doing this when he's treating us like doormats. I've tried talking to my sisters about this, by the way. I texted them both after the latest blow-up and asked why they keep claiming benefits for Dad when they don't help. My older sister just said, "It's not your business, stay out of it," and my younger sister didn't even respond. I also talked to my mom, hoping she could knock some sense into them, but she just said, "That's between them and your dad," and changed the subject. No one else in the family seems to care, and I'm starting to feel like I'm the only one who sees how messed up this is. So, Reddit, Wibta, if I stop supporting my dad over this? I know he's sick and needs help, but I'm so tired of being the only one stepping up while he prioritizes my sisters. Am I being too harsh, or is it fair to draw a line? I'm torn, and I need some perspective. Update. Added later, about 2 years after the original post. I didn't expect to come back to this post, but my dad's birthday just passed, and it brought up a lot of feelings, so I figured I'd give an update, even though no one asked. Fair warning, this is heavy. In January 2023, my dad passed away from complete kidney failure. It wasn't a shock to me. His health had been going downhill for a long time, and I knew a transplant wasn't in the cards. But the rest of the family acted like it came out of nowhere. They were all, "How could this happen?" while I've been watching him fade for years. The last time we really talked, I showed him the 7-week ultrasound of my son, who's now 2 years old and his only grandchild. My wife and I had rushed to get the earliest scan possible because we knew Dad didn't have much time. The baby looked like a little seahorse tadpole, and when I showed him, he cried. We had a short talk about fatherhood, how hard it is, how much it means, and he got so tired he fell asleep mid-sentence. I asked him not to tell anyone about the pregnancy, since it was so early, and he said, "I'll take it to the grave." 3 days later, he was gone. He kept his word. I think that moment gave him some peace, and I'm grateful for it. My sisters never changed. I tried to let go of my anger because I knew Dad didn't have long, and I didn't want to spend his last months fighting. For his birthday that year, we rented a canal boat because he'd always wanted to try one. He crashed into the bank like 5 minutes in, and we all laughed so hard we cried. It was one of the last good days. My sisters, though, they gave him less and less attention. On his last birthday, they didn't visit, call, or even text. He was heartbroken, but didn't say much. He kept helping them financially, though, right up until the end. When they found out he was dying, they suddenly showed up, acting like they'd been there all along. But it was too late. He was already unconscious. They only came when I told them he'd chosen to end life support. I'd known for 2 weeks that he might not make it, ever since he was admitted. I'd seen him in bad shape before, but this time felt different. The rest of the family kept saying he'd pull through, but I knew better. The hardest moment was when Dad asked me if he was dying. Everyone else was feeding him false hope, mostly to make themselves feel better. So I had to be the one to tell him, "Yes, you're gonna die soon." I'll never forget that conversation. He just nodded and said, "Okay." He passed a few days later, surrounded by family who barely gave him the time of day when he was alive. My sisters definitely regret how they treated him now, but it's too late. We were civil at the funeral, but we haven't talked since. I scatter my share of his ashes at the end of the canal he never got to finish sailing. My sisters turned theirs into jewelry, which, I don't know, feels weird to me, but whatever. I miss him every day. My son looks so much like him, and it's bittersweet. It's a shame things never got resolved with my sisters while he was alive, but I think he died as happy as he could have, and that's enough for me. Thanks to everyone who weighed in back then. It helped me see I wasn't crazy for feeling the way I did.